Buongiorno a tutti ragazzi. Thank you so much for tuning into another edition of the Inter Worldwide podcast. And it's getting to be that busy time of year where Inter does tend to drop points and leave their fans a little bit in the dust. But I don't think that's going to happen this time around. We started December with a match against Roma, and here to talk about that and a couple of other important things as well are crowd favorites Alessandro and Bruno. Alessandro, how you doing, man?
Oh, good. Oh, good. I'm in a 2 weeks vacation, so finally I can breathe a little bit. How are you guys? How are you, Bruno?
Yeah, I'm good. Very good. Just enjoying the beautiful summer weather here in Australia and enjoying our table position. So let's get into it, guys.
Let's get into it indeed. Sitting pretty still, but it was always going to be a tough weekend of fixtures, both Inter and Juventus taking on the teams from Rome. We had Roma at the San Siro. Juventus went to the Olimpico to take on the very, very good and very informed Lazio. And, not the result that either team would have wanted, but probably a result that sees Inter come out a little less battered and bruised than Juventus. Inter draws 0-0 with Roma. Juventus goes down 3-1 to Lazio. It keeps us 2 points clear. And I'll go first. I was still okay with the performance. I don't think we were that bad. It's easy to forget after beating teams like Brescia, Bologna, Hellas Verona. At the end of the day, Roma's never been an easy team. They're a big team. They're a big club, and they always come to fight us. We don't win against them very often compared to other teams. Our record against them is not great. So I don't think we were entitled to 3 points. That being said, there were a few individuals that looked sloppy. Brozovic was very ineffective, in my opinion. Biraghi, once again, wasn't very good at all. Had some really poor decisions on the left-hand side that even forced Conte to shout at him a couple of times. We saw that. But, we're still missing so many of our key players. And if Lukaku and Lautaro have a game where they're slightly subpar, which is what they weren't bad, just slightly off the pace, then, you got to take the results when they come. So 0-0 with Roma, Bruno, that's all from me. I thought it was okay, and I'll take it as a point gain rather than 2 drops. What about you?
Look, I remember the game very vividly. It was an early weekend match, Saturday morning here in Sydney, Friday night in the rest of the world, basically. But look, it was a good fixture, and I remember saying this to you when we met up straight after the game. This result is a great result if we beat Barcelona, because ultimately Champions League is our goal. And we'll get into the Barcelona fixture very shortly. But Inter lacked that definitive finish. Last season, we were lacking supply and the chances. This season, there's been a fair few opportunities, and one of the main people at fault there is Martinez. It's just the finish. There is no finish. We can't get that final finish. We should be bagging a lot more goals than what we are. But we are creating the chances, which is very good to see. Like you said, it's 1 point gained rather than 2 dropped. The Juventus-Lazio fixture that we will discuss sooner went our favour as well. So even if Inter do draw a fixture and Juventus do win, we are still top of the table on equal points with them. But that is the good thing. Second game in December, coming out with 4 out of 6 points. Is the December curse over? You can't really tell, but we shouldn't struggle against Genoa and Fiorentina coming up to wrap up our year. Biraghi was very disappointing. I understand why Conte brought him, is starting him. He needs to get that game time, that exposure. I can't see this loan being redeemed. I can't see him staying with the club unless something spectacular happens. One of the good points I did take out of the match, 2 of them, was our goal-creating chances. We did create a lot of opportunities, and at the same time, Roma did struggle. But not just that, it was also to see Asamoah get some game time before the big Champions League fixture. He has been missed, and he has been missed dearly. And there's just very little we could do. And like you said, we have got a very injury-stricken team at the moment, especially in our midfield. It's very depleted. I was disappointed we didn't get to see Esposito get a run on the field. He may have changed things up a bit if he did come on, bringing on that extra attacking-minded player. But overall, we never looked like conceding, and we looked like scoring. But at the end of the day, I think a draw was a fair result for both teams. It was first versus fifth at the time. So with that fixture over and done and dusted, Cagliari earlier today dropped points as well. So everything seemed to have lined up for Inter this week, which I was really impressed with. Ale, I know you have a lot more to say about this result. So take it on and let us know what you think.
Yeah, I mean, you guys covered a lot. What's left to say for me is a little bit about our midfield. Everybody knows that we are missing Barella and Sensi, and you can see that. I mean, we were still able to create a lot of pressure on Roma's defense, and that's what brought the different occasions that Lukaku first and Brozovic after missed. But after that, you could see that if there was Sensi or Barella or somebody else with a little bit more quality in the midfield, probably we were able to score at least one goal. I think Vecino missed one or two headers, so you know, as you said, we barely had any worry in the defense. I think Andanovic probably saved one shot. I can't even remember who did that anyway. But all in all, I guess we were lucky to play this week with the other results. And I don't think there's going to be a December course. Probably it's going to be something in January, just because we're going to face a series of teams that they are in a good form. So I don't think it's anything to do with luck. It's just a matter of the schedule, the fixtures that we have. And this December after Barcelona should be good enough for us. I wonder if we're able to finish the calendar year in the first position. I hope that the Juventus defeat kind of like unlock something in the players' head. Like finally Juventus lost a game in Serie A this season, so I hope they can relax a little bit and play a better football, score, not only create but score some more goal and stay in the first place until the end. What do you think, Anthony?
Yeah, that would be a really, really good way to finish the year, because we open up next calendar year with two very tough fixtures in Napoli and Atalanta. They're both in January. Correct me if I'm wrong, Bruno, as I go on, but I'm pretty sure that they both are in January. And to finish the calendar year first will be difficult, but I agree with Alessandro. I think that realism of Juventus dropping those points might have just spurred our team on a little bit. Just quickly, in terms of man of the match against Roma, Alessandro, will stay on you. Alessandro, just quickly, your man of the match against Roma?
Man of the match against Roma, probably De Vrij.
Yeah.
It was clear he was able to build something from the defense like we saw in other games. But correct me if I'm wrong, he also was able to run with the ball at least a couple of times and just probably missed the last passes. But I mean, he's a center back, so it's not Iniesta or Xavi, yeah. So probably De Vrij.
Cool. Bruno, your man of the match against Roma?
It would have to go in my eyes to well, I had two players in mind. First being Antonio Miranti from Roma. He was absolutely amazing in goals. But overall, I think Godin controlled the game a lot, and we saw what Marotta saw in him. And he was the godin from Atletico. He managed to hold the ball. He was physical when it needed to be, but he'd also hold that ball and take it upfield when needed. I just feel that's what we were looking to see and looking to get when we got Godin, and I think that's what we got come match day. Anthony?
Yeah. Yeah, very good. I'd have to agree. It was Diego Godin for me as well. Just looked really calm and cool on the ball and went into every tackle, made it comfortably. So Godin for me, and that'll give him a lot of confidence going into the next topic of conversation and fixture. This is the biggest game of our season so far and the biggest game in a long time. We host Barcelona on Wednesday morning here in Australia, which means it's Tuesday evening wherever you are somewhere else. But it's going to be very tough. Barcelona, of course, have qualified already from the group, so they are not going to bring a full squad to Milan to play Inter. Even their coach said post-match against their big win against Mallorca, he said that he will be resting players and players will not be traveling. I'm pretty sure Messi will travel just because he would probably want to be on the bench just in case there's a chance for him to grab a goal or two and get his stats up. But at the end of the day, I don't think he'll risk him in any way, shape or form. So we might be looking at playing a Barcelona side void of their best players, but it's still going to be very tough because it is Barcelona at the end of the day. Not only is this fixture important for what happens on the pitch in terms of us qualifying for the UEFA Champions League round of 16, but it's also a good time for the executives and directors of both Barcelona and Inter to meet regarding things like the release clause of Lautaro Martinez and the future of him, which we hope Inter and Marotta have got locked up, but also to discuss the topic of Arturo Vidal, who seems to be on his way out in January as well. I'll start off with the game. I do think that we stand a great chance. I don't think this is the same Inter that went into the game against PSV under Spalletti last season and completely bombed the last second chance. Just the last chance, the last hurdle. I think we're going to go into the game against Barcelona, and I think we will score early. I have nothing but faith in that Ragazzi in this match, and I think that we just might be able to qualify for the round of 16. So I don't usually sound optimistic and make optimistic predictions at the risk of sounding stupid, but I think we're going to beat Barcelona by 2-0, and Lautaro scores one, Lukaku scores the other. I'll start with Bruno. How are you feeling going into Barcelona? How are you feeling about a potential non-Messi showing up and a chance at going into the round of 16, bro?
Look, I've said it from the beginning. Barcelona have had a massive stretch of very tough fixtures in a league which doesn't have many tough fixtures. And I'm talking about 2 weeks ago they had Atletico. And Real Madrid is a midweek game next week. So these are two massive games in the context of them wrapping up their version of the Scudetto de la Liga. In saying that, I can't see half the team that we saw play Borussia Dortmund playing in this fixture either. It's just one of those games where I feel they've got first place wrapped up. And from that point on, they're not going to risk it. We've seen Lionel Messi pick up a couple of injuries this season and pre-season. We've seen, Suarez, Griezmann. Why would you want to risk such amazing players on your team in a match which the result bears no difference in the long run? If it was a battle between first and second, different story. You really want to wrap up first place in this competition just to get, I wouldn't say an easier match, but a team which is in the second half of the competition per se. I feel the Gents are going to go and they're going to be hosting Barcelona, and this is going to play a massive factor on the day. We had record numbers against Roma when we hosted them at the San Siro, and we're going to see the same thing happen against Barcelona. I do believe between the Spal, Roma and Barcelona game, they're predicting 200,000 in attendance between three matches, and you're looking at approximately 70,000, 65 to 70,000 per match there. We did have 67,000 at the Roma game, so we will be replicating that, and 67,000 fans cheering you on is a massive motivation. Will play a big factor. Unlike last season, our fate isn't in the hands of the other team. Our fate's in our own hands, and a win's going to be a win. Conte's not going to go look at the scoreboard with 10 minutes to go. Oh, look at that. Dortmund's drawing to 1-1. This 0-0 draw is going to cut it. He's no Spalletti. A win is a win. Every game he goes out there, he goes to win. And the likes of Asamoah coming back, the form Godin, Skriniar, De Vrij are in at the moment, and the confidence that Lukaku and Martinez have built up front is just becoming more and more evident as the days go on. So it's really exciting to see. I see it being a tough fixture. By all means, Barcelona's second string team is just as tough as their first. They do have a very good youth program, which they have shown over the last couple of years. But overall, as a Barcelona player, as a Barcelona manager, who would you rather see again in the Champions League final? Would it be Dortmund? Would it be Inter? The majority of them are saying Inter, only because we haven't thrived in this competition since we won it back in 2010. So I can't see them throwing the game, but I can't see them putting their best foot forward. Player for player, Inter should have it in the bag if they do go down the tracks of resting some of their main key players. Interesting thing that has come out of the post-match conference between the journalist and Valverde after the Barcelona's last fixture was that Vidal is for sale, and that's basically them saying, Inter, come get him, because Inter's shown a lot of interest in him. We were unable to secure him before the start of the season, but a great addition to the midfield in what we do have a struggling team at the moment. But overall, I'm not as optimistic as you, Anthony, in a 2-0 win. I can see it being a scrappy 1-0, get that early goal, defend, or a 2-1 late goal. I'd love to see Esposito make an appearance this game. He does change games. He does bring that attacking mentality on, and we've seen it time and time again. And I'm really looking forward to it as a neutral. I'm not as a neutral, but as from the greater picture. Overall, though, I feel this game is going to define our year. If we do win, it will give us that momentum into Fiorentina, into Genoa, to wrap up the 2019 calendar year with a beautiful first place finish. But in saying that, I never have confidence in Inter when it comes to meeting milestones like that, and I hope for it to change this year. I'll stop there because we are going to go cover the Juve Lazio game straight after this, so I don't want to talk for too long. But Ale, I know you're more of a realist. What do you think's going to happen come Wednesday morning, Tuesday night, your time?
So I have to say this. I was trying to read the formation that probably Barcelona is gonna play, and I know maybe 4 or 5 of the players. I have barely time to follow Inter and watch all the games. I don't have time to follow La Liga or Barcelona or any other team. So, but usually all these youngest they have, they end up being like very good players. So my only fear is that Conte will not expect all these youngest to be as good as they possibly are. So said that, I said it before in previous podcasts. If we go ahead with the Champions League, I'm the first one to celebrate. If we don't, I don't think this is the main goal of the season. So whatever happens, of course, I'm gonna support the team and hope for the victory, but I'm not gonna be so let down if we don't pass this Champions League. All in all, I think we can make it, honestly. And the only thing we cannot afford to lose anyone else in the midfield, because as you said before, Asamoah was able to play a little bit of minutes at the end of the Roma fixture, but he wasn't good at all. He lost every single ball he had, and it was just good to have some time on the field. But other than that, I hope he can do better in the next games, because it was absolutely horrible in those few minutes. But if anybody gets an injury in any way, we are pretty screwed. So my only hope is nobody gets injured, and then whatever happens, happens. I think, as you said, probably a scrappy 1-0, and we can go to the next round. Anthony?
Interesting. Well, let's just hope that we're all correct in a sense that Inter does go through to the next round. We are going to talk a little bit about the Lazio fixture, who beat Juventus 3-1. I'll let Bruno do a little bit more of the talking on that fixture. But for me personally, it was just a sign of Simone Inzaghi being an absolutely class manager, a manager who isn't given the best tools to work with, but really makes the most of what he's got. And I actually think, looking at that team now, it didn't look fantastic a couple of years ago, but it's looking like one of the best teams on paper in Serie A. He's resurrected the career of Luis Alberto, arguably the best midfielder in the league this season. No matter what the rumors are, Milinkovic-Savic still turns up more games than he doesn't, and he's a fantastic presence. Ciro Immobile is banging goals in left, right, and center. Lazio, definitely a cohesive unit. Only 5 points off the top spot, occupied by us, and only 3 points off Juventus. Bruno, Lazio, legitimate title challengers, man.
Look, I said this to you, I think, after we beat Lazio this season, and we played them fairly early on. I said Lazio are going to be a massive threat this season. They just look like a one unit working together. It's like your body. You have all your body parts, but if they don't work together, there's something wrong with you. This team here is something that is just ridiculous this season, and I've got to give big raps to Lazio. They've really increased their worth in the Serie A. They've got a great manager, a great owner who has always looked at the best possible results for the club financially. They get a couple of bargain sales and they sell for top dollar. I just feel Lazio are a team of class this season, and they showed it on the pitch against Juventus. Going down 1-0 against Juventus generally means game over. But in Lazio's eyes, that just meant, all right, we just got to score 2, 3, 4 more. And that's exactly what they did. They're rising star. Their frontman in Ciro Immobile, this game he didn't get his goal. He did miss a penalty, and missed the subsequent follow-up shot, which was stopped, and it was a great save. But at the end of the day, they just were one unified unit, and it was just beautiful to see. All three of their goals were just tearing the Juventus team apart. They were assisted by a red card to Cuadrado, which initially was a yellow card, and VAR overturned it. But in saying that, it was one of the most fluently officiated matches I have seen all season. The right calls were made. The referee didn't have any bias. The right calls were made, and he let the game go on. He didn't stop it for some match slowing down tactics to say, nah, let's pull it back here. He let the game go on. Juventus, on the other hand, looked like a dysfunctional body. The right arm's doing something, but the left arm doesn't give a shit. And they just look like they've done it that many times. They've won the Scudetto that many times now. That's not their goal. They don't look like they're there to win it. When I saw the lineup, I was very surprised not to see a Higuain start, but I was also just as surprised to see Dybala up front taking that striker position. I just found it to be very. I thought, all right, they're not going to hold back here, especially considering Inter didn't lose to Roma. Um, but I got a question. Is Ronaldo's career coming to an end? He just doesn't look like the man who played for Manchester United
Yes.
or Real Madrid. Yes, I know you agree, Ale. I know you do agree. But it's just not just that. I feel like if Ronaldo was still at Real Madrid, he'd be banging in goals left, right, and center, and not even breaking a sweat. It just shows the competitive nature of the Serie A and how hard it is for someone who is so good, and to be considered one of the greatest of all time, struggle. And yes, age does play a factor, but let's you look at Zlatan, for instance, no matter where he went, he dominated, except for Milan. I didn't like him at Milan. He was terrible at Milan, and I hope he doesn't return to Milan. But it was good to see Juventus drop points. It was good to see Juventus lose that game. It was good to see the team in Lazio. Definitely, they are title contenders. What I'm actually looking forward to in the coming weeks is Lazio take on Juventus again in the Supercoppa Italia, the winners of the Scudetto against the winners of the Coppa Italia. And I would like to see the result there, just to make sure that Sarri wasn't doing that just to hope to win a trophy in a couple of weeks' time, not showing all of his cards. But Lazio are very impressive, and I don't like to say it, but I feel like they are big threats to the Scudetto, not just this year, but in the years to come. They've been building it up very slowly, and they've been very unfortunate in the last couple of years. Um, we can remember Spalletti qualifying for the Champions League in that last game against Lazio, which would have granted them straight passage through. Last season, they were undone by a couple of teams in the Europa League. This season, they're not killing it in the Europa League, but at the same time, I don't think he has played a full strength squad, not once at all. I'm impressed. I'm scared. I'm nervous for Lazio. On the other hand, I'm disappointed in Juventus because when your mentality is like that, it's not going to just switch on when it comes to Champions League. It's not going to just switch on when it comes to other competitions. You need to maintain. It's all about momentum. So it's disappointing and it's unprofessional. But I couldn't give a shit, to be honest, to be quite frank with you. I don't really care. As long as they're dropping points, it doesn't really bother me. As long as they're dropping points and Inter's winning. And like I said earlier today, Inter can afford to draw a match and they'll still be on top. And that's what I like to see, that buffer. It would have been better if we won. We would have had that 4 points advantage on them. But beggars can't be choosers. Well, I'm happy with the result. Ale, what do you think? Tell us, is this Lazio team genuine title threat? And what's next for Juventus?
Okay, so I think Lazio is a very competitive team, but I don't think is Scudetto ready team. Let's say that both Roma and Lazio, like now halfway, but 3/4 through the season, they always have something happening, some situation, and they sabotage themselves in some way. So I'm not so worried about them. On the other hand, as you said, this event is something that is not going the right way, and possibly are all the injuries they're having, especially in the midfield. Because if you look at the people they brought in this year, the league is not working. Rabiot is injured. Ramsey is injured, and also the people they had last year is not really working as well. Bernardeschi is not working very well with Ronaldo. Ronaldo is scoring just penalties, and I mean, yesterday he scored like 2 meters from the line. So it's not the same player. So and if all these things were due to the new Sarri ball or some new football they're expressing, I can understand. But they're playing the same kind of football that we're playing under Allegri. Nothing changed. And if you look at the previous games, they were lucky to get points. Somebody wrote, now I don't remember exactly, game by game, they basically won or draw just in the last 10 minutes. And some call, well, just because the ref didn't see this or saw something that wasn't there, or some decision was like kind of fishy. But as soon as you get a ref that doesn't make mistakes or actually goes to the VAR, then the situation changed. I have to say, to be honest, I think when the teams were 1-1, there was a red card for Lazio. There was a very bad tackle on the Juventus player, and maybe that thing would have changed the game, maybe not. But that's all hypothetical, and right now I don't know what's gonna happen with Juventus. In some way, they always find a way to figure it out. But there are more and more situations. Even Mandzukic, it's a ghost. What happened to that guy? If it was a Inter player or Milan player or any other team, all the paper were writing about this, but nobody's saying anything. And I mean, until last year, he was one of their main players, and now I don't think he play any minute this season. I mean, there is something going on, and hopefully for us, this season it's the beginning of the end for them. Anyway, Anthony, what do you think?
No, I'd have to agree for the most part. I just want to see them fall, to be honest, and it's all nice to see. And it's not just those players you mentioned. One of their better players, I think, Bentancur, he went off injured, and when he left the game, the whole trajectory of their midfield kind of changed. So they're really, really lacking some creativity there, and Pjanic can't do it all himself, and he's suspended for the next game as well. So, I don't like to talk too much about Juventus because knowing them, they'll probably go on some ridiculous run of lucky decisions and gain maximum points. But at the end of the day, we are a lot more competitive now, and I really do think that we're going to be sticking with them up until the final 2 or 3 or even last match day of the season, that's for sure. Guys, we're going to keep this one nice and short, but we'll be back with plenty of content straight after Barcelona, which I'm starting to get more nervous about now after recording this podcast. It's going to be great. Thank you very much to my two guests, Alessandro and Bruno. Bruno, thanks, man. All right, never mind.
Thanks,
Alessandro,
mate.
thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
All right, grazie mille. Ciao, ragazzi.
Ciao.